In Ohio, Curtis stands in the rain, gazing up at massive clouds, confused. The rain feels unusual. It seems like motor oil instead of water. However, he soon realizes it's only a dream, as the weather is bright and pleasant when he wakes. Curtis then joins his wife, Samantha, and their deaf daughter, Hannah, for breakfast before heading to work. Curtis works for a construction company, while Samantha is a stay-at-home mom who also sews items to sell at the local fair on Saturdays. That afternoon, Samantha hosts friends at home, their children playing together. One of the kids notices Hannah holding a dangerous piece of wood with nails. Unable to warn her with shouts, Samantha rushes outside to intervene. Shortly after, heavy rain forces Curtis and his construction team to halt work for the day, and they gather at a bar. Back home, Samantha teaches Hannah the sign for storm as they watch the rain through the window. Later, Curtis gives his co-worker and close friend, Duarte, a ride home. During their chat, Duarte comments on Curtis's seemingly perfect life, but Curtis admits it's not always as ideal as it seems. Their conversation is interrupted by Duarte's wife, who silently beckons him inside. At home, Curtis checks on Hannah, while Samantha shares her concerns that their daughter struggles to connect with other kids. The next morning, Curtis cleans up dangerous debris in the yard to prevent Hannah from grabbing harmful objects again. A sudden heavy storm brews, and as Curtis reaches for Hannah, lightning strikes nearby. His dog, Red, breaks free from its chain and viciously bites Curtis's arm. But Curtis wakes up. It was another nightmare. The next morning, he can't shake how real the dream felt. Seeing Hannah play near Red makes him uneasy, so he takes her away from the dog. Samantha asks what's wrong, but Curtis snaps and leaves without eating. At work, he's distracted, constantly staring at his arm, feeling phantom pain from the dream. His boss, Jim, is frustrated with the delays caused by rain and insists the team catch up. On the way to the site, Curtis asks Duarte to help him pick up extra supplies. Later, Curtis notices a strange swarm of blackbirds flying in bizarre patterns. He asks Duarte if it looks odd, but Duarte didn't see anything. The team's extended work hours make Curtis late for a parent-teacher conference. Covered in mud, he and Samantha learn more about essential sign language for Hannah. Curtis realizes he needs to practice more, as Samantha spends more time teaching Hannah. Sometime later, while driving in heavy rain, Curtis and Hannah get into an accident. As Curtis's head bleeds, men appear outside the car, smashing windows and kidnapping Hannah. He wakes up screaming another nightmare. Feeling ill, Curtis sends Samantha and Hannah to the fair while he stays home. He secures Red in a fenced area and apologizes to the dog. While cleaning the yard, he's distracted by an old storm shelter. After finding the key, Curtis descends into the shelter, contemplating its potential. That evening, Samantha adds her earnings from the fair to their vacation savings. She questions Curtis about Red's new living situation, but he evades her inquiries and focuses on the news, which mentions a gas leak affecting a family. His paranoia grows. The next day, Curtis spots a man outside their house during a storm. He grabs Hannah and hides as the man tries to break in. Suddenly, the house begins to shake, and objects levitate. Curtis struggles to breathe, but then he wakes up. Horrified, he realizes he's wet the bed. When Samantha enters, he hides the evidence, blaming his outburst on feeling unwell. After Samantha leaves for church, Curtis changes the sheets and washes away the traces. Later, Curtis takes Hannah to the library, distracting her with a children's book while he researches mental illness. On the way home, he buys a large quantity of canned food, making them late for lunch with Samantha's family, who criticize him for skipping church. That afternoon, Curtis stores the food in the storm shelter and reads more about mental health. Curtis consults a doctor, revealing his struggles with vivid nightmares and feeling physical pain in his dreams. The doctor prescribes medication and recommends a psychiatrist in Columbus. Meanwhile, Samantha secures approval from their insurance for Hannah's hearing operation, relieving their financial worries. That night, the family celebrates the good news, but Curtis keeps his medication a secret. The next day, he feels rested and healthier, but at work, he hears thunder despite a clear sky. Panicking, Curtis leaves early, struggling with a panic attack. He stops at a store and impulsively purchases a container to expand the shelter. Curtis visits his mother, who has schizophrenia, worried he might be developing similar symptoms. She struggles to recall details about her condition, leaving Curtis unsettled. He later takes out a home improvement loan without telling Samantha and begins using stolen equipment from work to build his shelter. Duarte, concerned, asks if Curtis is okay, but Curtis brushes him off. Curtis also visits a local counselor, sharing his theories and fears based on his research. The counselor, unable to diagnose him, offers to guide him through his crisis by listening to his story. Curtis begins opening up about his experiences. Curtis recalls his troubled past. His mother left the family when he was young, leaving his father to raise him and his brother alone. Later, she was found scavenging for food in a dumpster, leading to her institutionalization in a state hospital. As Curtis begins to open up about his dreams, he starts to piece together the parallels between his fears and his family history. One evening, after a school meeting, Curtis drives his family home. He suddenly stops the car, mesmerized by flashes of lightning across the sky. Yet, his family remains asleep, and no other drivers react, heightening his anxiety about his mental state. On Saturday, while Samantha and Hannah are at the fair, Curtis and Duarte work on the storm shelter. When Samantha returns and sees what Curtis has been doing, she is furious. The tension escalates when she learns Curtis took out a loan to fund the project. Frustrated, Samantha demands an explanation for Curtis's recent behavior, including locking up Red. Curtis, unwilling to elaborate, leaves the room as Samantha breaks down in tears. That night, Curtis takes more medication than prescribed. Samantha awakens to find him seizing and bleeding beside her. Ignoring Curtis's protests, she calls an ambulance. After the paramedics leave, Curtis finally confesses everything to Samantha: his dreams, his fears, and his efforts to avoid abandoning his family like his mother. He vows to continue counseling to address his struggles. The following day, Curtis and Samantha take Hannah to the hospital for a checkup, and her surgery is scheduled for 6 weeks later. At work, Curtis asks his boss, Jim, to transfer Duarte to another crew to avoid involving his friend in his troubles. Jim agrees but warns Curtis about his frequent absences. Curtis blames the absences on Hannah's medical appointments. Later, Curtis goes to a store to purchase gas masks, shocked by their high cost. Meanwhile, Duarte's wife tells Samantha about rumors circulating about Curtis's odd behavior. Samantha defends him, insisting they are handling things. One afternoon, Curtis's brother, Kyle, visits after hearing about Curtis's erratic behavior from Samantha. Kyle is worried, but Curtis brushes off his concerns, instead urging Kyle to visit their mother. The brothers' relationship remains strained. Before Kyle leaves, Curtis asks him to take Red, signaling another attempt to simplify his chaotic life. During a stormy afternoon, Curtis dreams of finding Samantha drenched and holding a knife. Startled, he wakes up, unsettled by how real the dream felt. At breakfast, Samantha notices his unease, but when she reaches for his hand, Curtis instinctively pulls away. Later, Jim arrives at Curtis's home with grim news: he's discovered Curtis took company equipment illegally. Jim fires Curtis, leaving him with only 2 weeks of medical insurance. Duarte is also placed on unpaid leave for his involvement. Curtis shares the news with Samantha, and she reacts with a slap before leaving the room in frustration. Curtis visits his counselor, only to find she has been replaced. The new counselor insists on starting from scratch, but Curtis, unwilling to relive his past, leaves abruptly. He throws himself into work on the shelter while Samantha mends neighbors' clothes to earn extra money. However, it isn't enough, and she's forced to use their vacation savings. That evening, Curtis explains his flinching at breakfast was due to his disturbing dream. Samantha softens and takes his hand, offering a path forward under strict conditions. Curtis must see a psychiatrist and attend an upcoming school dinner to combat his isolation. At the dinner, Duarte confronts Curtis, blaming him for his job suspension. Curtis attempts to de-escalate, but Duarte pushes and punches him, triggering Curtis's breaking point. Curtis lashes out, yelling about an impending, catastrophic storm no one is prepared for. His outburst causes a scene, and Samantha takes him home. Sometime later, Curtis dreams of rescuing Hannah from a road where dead birds fall from the sky in bizarre patterns. A siren wails, pulling him back to reality. This time, the siren is real. A heavy storm has begun, prompting Curtis to take his family into the shelter. Inside, they don oxygen masks and wait for the storm to pass. Hours later, Samantha insists the storm has ended, but Curtis refuses to open the door, convinced it isn't safe. Samantha challenges him to confront his fears, refusing to take the key herself. Summoning his courage, Curtis opens the door to find a clear, sunny day. Neighbors are cleaning up debris, oblivious to the chaos Curtis had feared. Sometime after, Samantha takes Curtis to a psychiatrist, who prescribes stronger medication and recommends time away from the shelter. The doctor suggests Curtis will need intensive treatment at a specialized facility, meaning he'll be separated from his family for a while. The next day, the family visits the beach. While building a sandcastle with Hannah, she signs the word storm, pointing to the sea. Samantha joins them and sees what Hannah has noticed: oil rain and a massive dark storm brewing on the horizon. This time, when Curtis looks at Samantha for confirmation, she nods, affirming